ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। अष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवती नैष्टिकी। ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। So reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 18, verse 32 and 33. ओके, चलो। नहीं, आपके लिए बोल रहा हूँ। फोन है ना आपके पास? तस्य पुत्रोऽति तेजस्वी विहारन् बालकोर्बकैः राजनागं प्राप्तिं तातम् श्रुत्वा ततेन्द्रमब्रवीत्। तस्य पुत्रोऽति तेजस्वी विहारन् बालकोर्बकैः राजनागं प्रापितं तातम् श्रुत्वा ततेन्द्रमब्रवीत्। तस्य पुत्रोऽति तेजस्वी विहारन् बालकोर्बकैः राजनागं प्रापितं तातम् श्रुत्वा ततेन्द्रमब्रवीत्. So the synonyms together. Tasya, his, the sage's, putra, son, ati, extremely, tejasvi, powerful, viharan, while playing, balaka, with boys, arbakai, who were all childish, rajana, by the king, agham, distress, prapitam, made to have, tatam, the father, shutva, by hearing, tatra, then and there, idam, this, abravit, spoke. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. The sage had a son who was very powerful, being a Brahmana's son. While he was playing with inexperienced boys, he heard of his father's distress, which was associated, which was occasioned by the king. Then and there, the boy spoke as follows. So this is uh, the scene wherein Maharaj Parikshit is being cursed And the boy that is being spoken of here is none other than Shringi, right? And there are many important aspects in just in the translation. We can see the first sentence that says, the sage had a son who was very powerful, being a Brahmana's son. So, um, uh, Shringi got his powers because of the the excellent education and um, knowledge given by his father in such a young age, that he was a very powerful personality in that age, wherein merely just boys play around and play petty games, right? And the next sentence, while he was playing with inexperienced boys, he heard of his father's distress, father's distress. So you see that although he's powerful, he's still, um, as normal boys, he's playing with other inexperienced boys, right? And then we'll see in the purport how what happens when somebody inexperienced gets a power, right? Then they don't know um, how to use that yeah, for the benefit of the society. Um, and then when he heard of his father's distress, without even thinking what might be the reason, what might be the cause, um, he spoke as follows, as in he cursed the king without even knowing the whole situation. This is what happens, and we see this in modern world as well, that when someone has power, then um, they have the ability to do very much good to the society, and at the same time they can be very harmful to the society as well. And in this case we see the latter one. So we'll read the purport. Due to Maharaj Parikshit's good government, even a boy of tender age who was playing with other inexperienced boys could become as powerful as a qualified brahmana. This boy was known as Shringi, and he achieved good training in brahmacharya by his father so that he could be as powerful as a brahmana even at that age. The first point is also very important. You know, obviously his father gave him that education, but Prabhupada says that due to Maharaj Parikshit's good government, right? So here also we can see that when there is good government, like, in India we can see now, then there is support for Sanatan Dharma, right? There is support for um, good activities. But if the government is not supportive, then many people cannot do anything, right? Uh, like here also, if we did not get the support of local authorities or government, then we couldn't have been able to do or contribute to the society in the way we are doing, right? So it all boils, as Maharaj says, it boils from top-down approach. So if the cream of the society, if the managers and leaders of the society are um, good, or they follow the dharma, then that trickles down in the whole system, and then everybody in the system, including the people lower in the system, are also benefited. We'll read further. We have another verse to complete. But because the age of Kali was seeking an opportunity to spoil the cultural heritage of the four orders of life, the inexperienced boy gave a chance for the Kali, for chance for the age of Kali to enter into the field of Vedic culture. So, this is a nice point. Prabhupada is saying that Kali was seeking an opportunity. So let's discuss how how this attempt was successful and what other attempts before this did Kali do. So first, obviously when Krishna was there, no question of Kali, right? Kali cannot enter. But when after Krishna went, um, Kali entered. The first scene was Kali trying to harm the bull, right? And that's wherein Maharaj Parikshit comes and he sees what's happening. When he sees some bad inauspicious omens, he thinks that I should go out and take a look of what's happening. And when he comes out, he sees that this Kali is uh, beating a bull, right? Uh, and that bull represents dharma. The four legs of the bull represent dharma. So that was like the second attempt that Kali was trying to do to get into the mainstream. But still, what did Maharaj Parikshit do? He drew his sword and he was about to kill Kali. But what did the intelligent Kali do? What did he do? He surrendered. He said, Maharaj, maaf kar do. He said, Parikshit Maharaj, please forgive me. I'll not do this again. But you have to give me some place. See how evil people work, right? First they'll say, give me some space. And then when they come, then they'll say, oh, can I get this also? Can I get that also? Little bit of that, little bit of that. So little bit करके पूरा ले लेते हैं. Right? So then Kali says, Maharaj, then in your kingdom, where do I go? Then Maharaj Parikshit says that you go to the four places, right? Um, where meat eating is there, where intoxication is there, where illicit sex is there, and where gambling is there, right? So you can go in these four places. But then Kali asks Maharaj one more place, that Maharaj, ek aur. And that place is where there is um, irreligious hoarding of gold. And then that was the opportunity that Kali was seeking then. But however, although he asked this, he was still struggling because he still couldn't get into the lives of people. Because when Maharaj Parikshit was there, there was no place on the whole planet that there was intoxication, meat eating, gambling, and illicit sex, right? So Kali was still like, "Arey, जगह तो दे दिया, लेकिन करूँ क्या?" There is no space, nothing to do. And even it is said that the gold that people had, they used it completely for the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So eventually, there also, Kali did not have any space to, to enter and influence people's mind. So that was his like third attempt to try to get. Um, and then we see this fourth attempt that, wherein he influences Parikshit Maharaj that he feels thirsty, and Parikshit Maharaj um, picks up a dead snake and puts it around the sage. Right? That is the first instant wherein Kali tries to influence, but he's still not successful. But in his fifth attempt, we see here that he influences uh, the boy, because children are very easily susceptible. And then under that influence, Shringi utters a curse that then leads to eventually Maharaj Parikshit leaving his body, but also to the advent of Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, we'll read further. Hatred of the lower orders of life began from this Brahmana boy under the influence of Kali, and thus cultural life began to dwindle day after day. So, if you read Srimad Bhagavatam in the coming verses, you will see that Shringi said that how dare this low Kshatriya king who is always immersed in enjoying opulence and gold and chariots and palaces dare to do such an act to a Brahmana such as my father. So Prabhupada is pointing out that that was the point wherein the distinction came between, Brahmana is top, then Kshatriya, then Vaishya, and then Shudra, right? Earlier, everybody did all their occupational duties in a very conducive and um, in a way wherein everybody worked together. And that's how society progressed. But Prabhupada is pointing out that this was the first time wherein, due to Shringi, there was a distinction or there was a hatred for the lower varnas of, um, the lower ashrams of um, uh, uh, Vedic culture. Okay. The first victim of Brahminical injustice was Maharaj Parikshit, and thus the protection given by the king against the onslaught of Kali was slackened. Uh, Srila Prabhupada is saying that, especially um, yeah, back 100, 200 years, uh, they established that Brahmanas are important and nobody else should do any service, right, to the Lord. Only Brahmanas are allowed to go into the altar. Only, and Brahmanas means you should be born from in a Brahmana family, right? But we discussed this earlier also that Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that the varnas and ashrams are not based on birth. Chaturvarnya Maya Shistram Guna Karma Vibhagasa. So it is based on Guna and Karma, not on birth. Krishna doesn't say that Chaturvarnya Maya Shistram Janma, right? It doesn't say based on Janma. So uh, back then, as Prabhupada is also pointing out, that all of these varnas and ashrams live together. But then, when this scene happened, and Shringi cursed Parikshit Maharaj, and he was, kind of destined to um, die or leave his body in 7 days, then Kali got a chance. Like now, Maharaj Parikshit is gone, and there is nobody as powerful as Maharaj Parikshit to keep control on Kali. So then, the fifth attempt of Kali was successful in coming into our mainstream. Okay, so we'll see the next verse as well. अहो अधर्मपालनं पिबीनं बलिभुजम् इव स्वामिनि अघं यद् दासानां द्वारपानं सुनम् इव. The Brahmana's son Shringi said, "Oh, just look at the sins of the rulers who, like cow and watchdogs at the door, perpetrate sins against their masters, contrary to the principles governing servants." So here itself, if you see this translation, Shringi is making a distinction that Brahmanas are on top, and then everybody else, the Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, they come below them, right? And he's calling the rulers or the uh, class like crows and watchdogs at the door. And the other sentence used is perpetrate sins against their masters. So who are the masters? Masters are the Brahmanas, right? And he says that this is against the principles of the society. Read the purport. Little longer. The Brahmanas are considered to be the head and brains of the social body, and the Kshatriyas are considered to be the arms of the social body. The arms are required to protect the body from all harm, but the arms must act according to the direction of the head and brain. That is natural arrangement made by the supreme order. For it is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita that the four social orders or castes, namely the Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, and the Shudras, are set up according to the quality of work done by them. Naturally, the son of a Brahmana has a good chance to become a Brahmana by the direction of his qualified father. As a son of a medical practitioner, has a very good chance to become a qualified medical practitioner. So the caste system is quite scientific. The son must take advantage of the father's qualification and thus become a Brahmana or medical practitioner and not otherwise. So you see, Srila Prabhupada is making a Jai Shri Shri Raj Maharaj ki Jai. Shri Shri Nitai Navdeep Chandra Bhagwan ki Jai. So Srila Prabhupada, you see here, he's clearly pointing out that um, being a Brahmana's son gives you a chance to become a Brahmana, right? And there are rituals that you have to go, like first initiation, now second initiation, like then you become a Brahmana. Not that you are born and then if you're born with a thread like Vamandev, then then you are Brahmana, right? But none of us are like Vamandev, who is born with a golden thread, right? um, so Prabhupada is pointing out that um, being born in a Brahmana family gives you a good chance, just as a son being born to a medical practitioner or doctors has a very good chance to become a qualified medical practitioner. But similar to how a doctor's um son or a daughter would have to go to a medical school, right? Similarly, a Brahmana son would also have to take proper guidance and proper knowledge of the scriptures of his father, so on and so forth, to become an actual Brahmana. So the son must take advantage of the father's qualification and thus become a Brahmana or a medical practitioner and not otherwise. Without being qualified, one cannot become a Brahmana or medical practitioner. And that is the verdict of all scriptures and social orders. Herein, Shringi, a qualified son of a great Brahmana, attained the required Brahmanical power both by birth and by training. But he was lacking in culture because he was an inexperienced boy. By the influence of Kali, the son of Brahmana became puffed up with Brahmanical power and thus wrongly compared Maharaj Parikshit to crows and watchdogs. Um, so we see here that actually Shringi was, he was not only the son, but due to his father, his education and knowledge, he was qualified to be a Brahmana. And um, he attained the power that he could utter such a curse, and it became fruitful, or it came into effect. So a couple things here. But Srila Prabhupada is pointing out that he had the power both by birth and training, right? But he was lacking the culture of an inexperienced boy. Um, this is like, someone immature has the power to um, control or do harm in a large scale to society. Um, and in this case, Shringi was, inexperienced, but just because of his age. Playful boy, 5, 6 years, having such a power, sometimes they don't think rationally. Another, any other examples that we can think of that, young boys or, young at age with um, superpowers. One example comes is Hanumanji. Right? Hanumanji, when he was small, super powerful. Everybody, all demigods gave him boons, right? And what did he start doing? He was playing mischief with the sages. Somebody is doing yagya, he'll put water. Somebody, he'll tie their shikhas, he'll run away. So, but that was more playful. But we see that. if you have superpowers and then uh, although you don't have experience or they're childish, then you might use them um, in an inappropriate way, right? So this is also very important that someone should have these powers some with experience as well. Then he knows how to handle them. By the influence of Kali, the son of a Brahmana became puffed up with Brahmanical power and thus wrongly compared Maharaj Parikshit to crows and watchdogs. The king is certainly the watchdog of the state in the sense that he keeps vigilant eyes over the border of the state for its protection and defense. But to address him as a watchdog is the sign of a less cultured boy. Now, if you think about one aspect here, that um, such a boy, with such power, he could say something and that came into effect, right? Means, obviously, when you're pure, and the word specifically stressed here in italics is, in the previous verse was brahmachari, right? So when you practice brahmachari, also you get uh, certain powers. Um, and the other aspect is when, or let me say this, we say so many things, right? But nothing comes true. Nothing will happen if I say something, right? Um, and the reason for that is because we don't even follow our um, own thing towards our own self. So if we say that, suppose tomorrow I'll wake up at 3:30 a.m. or 4 a.m., doesn't happen, right? So our self-talk itself is kind of the first starting point that we don't practice this with. And then that trickles down to every aspect of our life. So if you could start practicing this, that, earlier it was said that for a Kshatriya, a given word is more valuable than his life, right? Pran jaye par vachan na jaye, something like that. So the value of words in these days is very reduced, right? We don't do what we say. We definitely uh, don't do what we don't say, right? So that's why our words, or the words that we utter may not have so much power. But then we see here that uh, Prabhupada is pointing out, by the influence of Kali, the son of Brahmana became puffed up with Brahmanical power. That wherein we practice this, the aspects um, of uh, being a Brahmana, speaking truth, celibacy, so on and so forth. Then, and obviously, starting with our own self, and when we say something, we follow it up. So if you say that you'll be here, then you'll be there, right? Or if you'll do something, then you better do it. Right? You're committed to it. And then we'll see that as we start doing that more and more in our life, we'll see that more and more things start happening as we say. Obviously, when we see bigger, senior devotees, senior sannyasis saying and things coming true. For example, Srila Prabhupada said so many things that Krishna fulfilled, right? And that's obviously because one, Srila Prabhupada is a pure devotee, but two, because, Prabhupada was a perfect uh, brahmachari as well in his behavior. Okay, we'll read the last here. Thus, the downfall of the Brahminical powers began as they gave importance to birthright without culture. The downfall of a Brahmana caste began in the age of Kali. And since Brahmanas are the heads of the social order, all other orders of society also began to deteriorate. This beginning of Brahmanical deterioration was highly deplored by the father of Shringi, as we'll find out. So, when even in medical science, when uh, if anything happens to your body, it still can be fixed, right, in some way or the other. But something happens to your brain, nothing can be done. That's like your main CPU. If you mess that up, then everything is gone. Again, you see, these days also, everything is designed around, helmets protect the head, airbags around the head, everything is there just to protect the head first, because in that there is the brain. And to connect that here, Srila Prabhupada is saying that Brahmanas are like the head of the society. And if they are not in line with Vedic injunctions, then whatever trickles down is also not um, of the highest caliber. And we see here the example of Shringi. Although he had so much Brahminical power, but being inexperienced and without um, proper culture, Prabhupada uses that word, um, he um, cursed Maharaj Parikshit. Um, And this is the beginning. This beginning of Brahminical deterioration was highly deplored by his father. Obviously, when his father got to know, he was not at all happy, right? Because elder people know what is good and what is bad. We were just talking about Hanumanji's example also, Hanumanji was small, but he had superpowers, right? So then what happens when a child has superpowers, right? He was doing mischief, right? He was troubling the sages and this thing and that. And there also we see there is a curse, right? Hanumanji gets a curse. But since he had to do Ram Kaj, then they didn't curse him that he forget it completely, Time being, he should forget it. Here we also we see that um, Shringi's father was not at all happy, because even he was a Brahmana, and a Brahmana can see past, present, and future also. A real Brahmana, right? Or who has the Brahminical powers, and he could see that because of this curse, um, Maharaj Parikshit obviously will die, but this will be the then open ground for Kali to play around, and then he's very unhappy. And very nice example, actually, what happens is after this, when he knows that Shringi cursed him, his father actually goes to Maharaj Parikshit, and he, seeks forgiveness on behalf of Shringi. Usually in these days, if we do something mistake, we try to cover it up, right? But here we see that if something has done by my child, the father owns it up. And this culture is there that you seek forgiveness, even if uh, even if you may not be directly the person doing that. And we should also kind of imbibe this in our society, in our lives, actually. Um, Asking for forgiveness, even Gaur Gopal Prabhu makes this joke that um, one who asks for um, one who does something wrong and then asks for forgiveness is a righteous person, right? One who asks for forgiveness, even when it is not his mistake, is a brahmana or a much more advanced person. And one who asks for forgiveness, knowing that he is right and the other person is wrong, is his husband, right? Gaurav says that. But anyway, so this example is being set forth by the father of Shringi, that we should have this culture of asking for forgiveness. And Guru Maharaj was saying that, in Vaishnava society, we do so much service that, sometimes we might clash together or something, we might step. So make sure that if you feel that, and Paramatma will inspire you from within. If you think that while doing a particular service, um, some Vaishnava did not like it, or was kind of displeased by your service, then it, takes like a fraction of a second to just ask for forgiveness. But you should do that with full heart, not just because it is said that you should ask forgiveness. And then if we start doing that consistently, you will see that um, not only your japa improves, but your relationship also improves. And then, above all, your spiritual master is pleased. And even above that, Krishna is pleased, right? Because Krishna wants, above all, Krishna wants um, loving relationship amongst his devotees. Okay. Okay, we'll stop it here. I went a little bit over time. Any questions or comments on Zoom or in the room? Otherwise, we can stop it here. Okay. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुदेव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।